All right, folks, welcome one and all. You know, from our little corner in southwest Lagos, Nigeria, from our hangout, I am Citizen Jones, welcoming you again. Today on the program, let's share a number of stories with you. Federal government to reconstitute minimum wage negotiation panel. As Ngige says, government can't meet labor's demand. Court issues order of consequences of disobedience to DSS over continued detention of Sowore. Now, police discover 300 persons in chains in Quranic school in Kaduna. And of course, later on, this one, federal government to borrow 1.7 trillion naira to finance the 2020 budget. I'm hanging out with Cyril Abaku. Cyril, good evening to you.
Thank you, Citizen Jones.
And there's also Charles Ideho here.
Thank you.
I greet you.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Bola Olajuwon.
Thank you very much.
Bola suggested Cyril speaks too much grammar. Yes. And I told you they had to sell 2 plots of land to send
to school.
I agree with you.
So he has to justify his village people that
Because they are washing over there.
That's it, that's it. Okay, so the team is ready. I hope you are.
Ooh, God.
All right then, you know, civil servants across the country might have to wait another day for a new national minimum wage to take effect. Labor and Employment Minister Dr. Chris Ngige hinted of a reconstitution of the new minimum wage negotiation panel. Receiving Labor President Comrade Ayuba Wabat and team on Wednesday, Dr. Ngige disclosed that it became necessary for ministers to take over negotiations from permanent secretaries. In our country, what is certain about a negotiation is that it will lead to another negotiation, Cyril.
Of course.
So we're here.
Yes, and you know, as if you took those words out of my mouth. Ostensibly, you find that we've been through this route before, and we're just getting into it again, and so it's become some kind of conundrum. I
just want to pause you. Correspondent Joke Adisa was there. She shares her story with us. Let's watch.
This courtesy call comes days after talks on consequential adjustment of salaries between Labour and the government ended in a stalemate. Representatives of Labour on the Joint Public Service Negotiating Council had expressed frustrations at the failure of the council to arrive at an agreeable percentage on salaries of workers on the ICADA. It is therefore not surprising that the issue dominated talks at this first meeting between the leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress and the 2 ministers of Labour and Employment after their appointment. The NLC president decries the undue delay in arriving at a consensus on all issues relating to the new minimum wage.
I'm aware that graciously level 1 to 6 have been affected, but you know also we have outsourced level 1 and 2 through public service reform in the public service. So invariably we can say 3 to 6, and they are in the minority.
I want to say that
the Minister of State has just been deployed to the ministry. He pledges his support for organized labor. For Chris Ngige, who is having his second shot at the office, events in the past 4 years on industrial relations have been collaborative. Mr. Ngige confirms the federal government has begun paying levels 1 to 6, the new minimum wage. The minister says a committee is now in place to conclude talks on the matter.
It is unfortunate that the negotiation was deadlocked on that other level from 7 to level 17, and the issue became on what percentage or slide that they should use on a sliding scale. The important thing is that we are going to discuss and negotiate it.
The government wants organized labor to collaborate with it in addressing the problem of growing unemployment, as it admits increasing criminalities in the nation and the consequences of idle hands.
Cyril, that was to aid your takeoff.
You know, because, you know, this is a question of a minimum wage that has now brought maximum problems. It must be addressed head on. The issue is that even if you reconstitute the committee, the issues remain the same. And these are issues that anybody should have foreseen long before this. When government and Labour agreed on 30,000 naira as minimum wage, not as minimum wage, it meant that the question of consequential adjustment was also born ab initio. And so coming to attempt to look at it from different perspectives, I don't think it's going to work. What I think what should have been done from the get-go was for government to have negotiated with labor in a comprehensive manner. As to say that, you know, if you follow what the minister even said, he said the economy was in doldrums, to use those words exactly. He said the economy was not in a shape to accommodate this issue of consequential adjustment. We don't know how far they're even going to go. At the time when labor, if you had the labor chairman, he was even complaining or making a submission that in reality, stricto sensu, what government was paying was even levels 3 to 6 because levels 1 had been outsourced. So one, there must be a clear picture of what the issues are.
Yeah.
That will enable both parties to, you know, to make informed choices over the matter.
Yeah. Based
on the premise that the principle or doctrine of collective bargaining is still on the table.
That's right.
So for as long as the debate continues among interested parties, it is fine. But there must be a logical and acceptable conclusion at the end of the day. And then this can be delayed for too long. Citizen, the reality is that 30,000 minimum wage is an improvement from where we were before. But it doesn't do anything realistically for anybody, any 30,000 naira today in Nigeria. It only serves the purpose. It acknowledges the fact that the Nigerian worker needs to earn more, even if he can't earn as much as he should earn. But subtly, there is also the implication that, you see, we are paying people what cannot do anything for them. And so other alternative, maybe not so morally proper ways of making income will still linger. And in the end, the burden both on the good side and on the bad side is borne by government. So I think that is why we need to begin to draw a point of departure.
Charles, how do you open?
Well, for me, I think this new committee that they want to set up is absolutely not necessary, in my own opinion, because there's this tripartite committee they've been having over there. You have this federal government, you have the state, and then the organized private sector. So over time, they've been meeting previously and so on. This committee there was even a time they said they changed the nomenclature from MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, to MOA, Memorandum of Action. So of which where we now arrive at this, it's time for the time for understanding is gone, and then this is the time for action. But it is this regime of action we're still having all those problems going forth and back and all that back. But I think what the government should really do is that they should look, just like Labour said, there have been data used over the years to arrive at some figures. If they can start all over, to start collecting all these figures, you'll be able to meet at an equilibrium point. This issue of minimum wage started during Shagari's time, in 1981 precisely, when the law was enacted. And there were processes and methodologies put in place for you to use to, over time, when you want to say you want to have any increment, I think it was supposed to be for 5 years. Mm-hmm. What happens to all this that were laid down? Nobody's talking about that anymore. Okay, so and even right now, it doesn't appear that Labour is standing on a very good stead, because a government have been able to succeed to divide and rule Labour as you speak. Because if on the one hand you are catering for the welfare, let me use the phrase welfare of the levels 1 to 6, then you say, okay, 7 to 17, we will handle yours later, and that's exactly where we are going. Even if Labour wants to go on strike now, it's going to be a divided house. So what I think they should do, rather than set up another committee, I think the committee they've been using ever since, the tripartite, should go back. They call them together so that they can start from where they stopped, and then for continuity, rather than go back again to bring new people again, not to start all over again. I think it's going to bring about instability in this all this negotiation. That's the way I see it.
Bola, how do you open?
You see, with what is obtainable now, with what we are seeing, that means there was no agreement as for 30,000 minimum wage. Because, like, if you are now talking of consequential adjustment, and you didn't put that into play when you people, had the initial agreement, we are not having any deal on the table as at now. Fine. Why should they now inaugurate another committee? The chairman of the committee is now on leave of absence, or I should say that she was asking.
But except that the panel we are talking about has nothing to do with 1 to 6.
Yes.
No, it's from 7 to 17.
So
it's the other one.
17.
Yeah, we know that. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
No, what I'm saying is that why are they inaugurating another committee? What they're supposed to do, what they ought to do, is to bring the new person who is the head of service, who supposed to be the chairman of the committee. Just let the person, get there, chair this, meeting, and move on. Because what really happened?
But the government is saying, look, the PAMSECs were in charge, they were at the negotiating table,
Yes,
but
yes.
now they don't seem they seem to have messed things up. So the ministers will now take over, right? Wrong?
See, let me tell you one thing. It's wrong. Government is a continuum. Let me tell you one thing. See, the PAMSECs, these people are the, how do I say?
The engine room of the
civil
service.
They know what is obtainable. Is the minister want to tell me that he knows more than the PAMSEC, who knows the figures, who knows, the intrigues, everything there? No, let's be realistic with ourselves. Because what really happened is that, see, since they announced the agreement, some people are already living in this world. I'm telling you, they are living in a world that, look, let this money come. They've been dreaming, and even,
They have already spent it.
They've already spent the money.
They spent it in
This
advance.
is when they've spent the money. I'm telling you, who want to get married, is already married. Who want to have another child is already doing something about it. I'm telling you the truth. And even, see, my brothers, let's be realistic with ourselves. The landlord,
They're waiting.
The market women, they've already done something. And immediately the money start landing, it's being absorbed.
Bola, you are not suggesting that this upward review could be done quietly. Is it possible?
No, it's not possible. It's not possible.
No, but
it's not possible.
it's
not possible.
This is not to suggest by any stretch of the imagination that the initial committee was constituted to discuss scales 1 to 6. It was
holistic.
It was a holistic approach to the issue.
Across
So
board.
you see, this changing of the goalpost in the middle of the game is not something that infuses good faith into the process.
Yes.
And the reality is that if at all there was any breach to the process, the brunt cannot be borne by labor for a number of reasons. Number one, whether there was a minister of labor or not, it was not labor's fault in the first place. Number two is the fact that if the minister feels very strongly about the way and manner in which negotiations were conducted before he came into office, what internal mechanisms have been put in place to also address those issues?
They move from there.
Because, I mean, this is not a secret issue. It's a public matter. And in case they don't understand, citizen, I always talk about the history of minimum wage whenever I talk about it in Nigeria. Minimum wage was introduced by Obafemi Awolowo in the Western region. He was scorned and laughed at. What was he trying to achieve? It is that the Nigerian worker, there must be a minimum standard for defining who a Nigerian worker should be.
Okay.
And so, if we feel that 30,000 naira is the minimum that a citizen working for government or somebody should be earning to make as a standard way to live in Nigeria today, it is even an illusion.
Yes.
But let us take it that for the sake of a figure, there's something to call it 30,000 naira. Does the Nigerian government believe sincerely that whether it is 30,000 naira or even the consequential judgment that they're going to pay will address all the issues confronting the worker immediately? No.
Possible.
But will it cushion the effects? Yes. And so a delay in cushioning the consequences of the economic doldrums which the minister is even referring to does not help anybody. In the end, whether I change the rhetoric from memorandum of understanding to memorandum of action or whatever it is you call it, if this step is not taken, citizen, let me tell you what I was telling you before we came on the air. You see, when somebody who is, because these people work in government, they are civil servants, whether they like it or not, whether they're in the power sector, they're in oil and gas, they're in whatever, these are also workers for government. Imagine what begins to happen if their disenchantment with governments 1 step forward today, 2 steps forward, backward tomorrow, begins to be translated into the work they do. Imagine how that is going
to affect productivity.
Even affect the economy. So in effect, we are seeing a system where perhaps for the first time in a long time, the Nigerian worker, it may not be the most interesting time to be a civil servant in Nigeria.
That's right.
Frankly speaking, whatever the reservations you may have about the civil service are, the reality is that what a worker is due his wages give it to him, first of all.
But see,
then
okay,
any other discussion can be brought on the table. But until that is done, there's a problem.
Another aspect that I am also afraid of that may also continue the regime of instability is this what seems to be like a divisive nature of this payment. It came out to say that the federal civil servant have been paid the 30,000 naira. Now, you are forgetting that it was a tripartite agreement, okay? It was standing on three legs. You had the federal government on one of the legs, you have the state government on the second leg, and then the OPS, Organized Private Sector.
Yeah.
Now, if you have said that the federal government have been able to pay that amount of money, what happened to the state? I mean, most of the state, most of them are in arrears. How many states in this 36 state structure that we have been able to adhere to that strictly? Okay. Now, if you are saying, okay, this what's supposed to cut across board, you are able to satisfy one aspect of it. What happened to the state? What happened to the OPS? So that's another thing that we also have to take into consideration. Because if we need to also nip this in the board and say, okay, I know that labor issue, even in Britain, even in South Africa, they always have a labor issue. It's only in the US you have, I mean, everywhere, the issue of minimum wage, it's not Nigerian native. We copy it from somewhere. Even in the US, as you speak, there's a minimum wage everywhere that cuts across the whole states of the US. Yeah. But some states that can decide to pay above that peg. Exactly. So I think as Labour is going into all this discussion, we must look for a way that the states, those who are working for states, will not be traumatized.
All right, but let's we call a spade a spade.
Yes.
At this table, always.
Yes.
Now, government on the one hand, labor on the other.
Yes.
Is there anything in the middle? What do I mean? Is labor, organized labor in Nigeria, has it really lived up to its billing?
No, I don't think so.
Is this the kind of labor we want in these times?
Please, they've not done anything. Because let me tell you, look, before they announced the 30,000, they're supposed to have put all this, what they are now discussing, into play. It's supposed to have been in the picture. And they're supposed to have announced it all together. It's not that working on that, you announce one step, which is 30,000, then you announce another one. They've not lived up to the bidding.
Let me pause you a little because we have company. Chris is reaching us from Lagos here. Chris, good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening.
Let's go.
Okay, I want to agree with the gentleman speaking there this evening. And let me tell you guys what I smell. I smell insincerity in the side of the federal government. Forming a new committee is just a delay tactic, whether they like it or not. Because announcing to the world that you want to start paying the minimum wage of 30,000 and coming now to say we'll pay from 1 to 6, then from level 7 to 17, we're going to start forming committee to do one or two. Those things are just plot to waste time. And the truth of the matter is, the way they are going, this regime will finish and this matter will still remain lingering. Let us just adopt the US style. Pay people by hours and let all this issue of minimum wage just end. Or you adopt the South African style, which is paying people every Thursday. As soon as you get to Thursday, you pay them. That is just my contribution. Thank you.
Good. And that's like going back to the National Assembly. Hold on.
Okay.
Paying people by the hour.
Yes.
I it's feasibility and all that.
It can only happen in the private sector, but it cannot happen in the civil service sector.
Of course it can, Bola.
No, it cannot.
Bola, it can. Bola, it can.
Let me just say.
No, it can't. No, let him finish. He can't. Yes.
You know how the civil service works.
You are not labor. Okay, let's.
You know how the civil service works. You understand me? Okay, fine. You just tell the civil servant, oh, you will come to work between 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. I'm sorry to say it. You know how these people, run and how they come to work. Instead of coming around 9, the man will come around 11. He will go around 2. You understand?
No, but I can work.
No, let me tell you. Wait, see, how do you measure it?
I want to hear Charles innovative. No, you see,
it can work. You see, I think. Don't let pigeonhole all this issue to say Nigeria is a peculiar state. What I say it can work is that All you need to do is that people clock in and they clock out. No, look, because they say, well, you're asking how do they measure productivity?
Charles,
yes.
In this house,
in TVC, we clock in and clock out.
On these premises,
yes.
People clock in
and clock out.
But Bola will tell you it's a private organization.
But what I'm saying, we can benchmark, we can copy and paste.
Are the workers here not Nigerians?
Wait, look,
and so on.
don't look. I don't look. I think we are derogating. No, hold on. Let me finish this. Let me finish what I say. It can work.
Just a minute.
Hold on. Don't take over NLC's job, okay? As we are bound by time here.
Yes, exactly. You will award a contract to fix the technology. Wait, which one?
I don't know. Look, are you saying that?
Oh, come on. Let's be orderly here.
Yes.
We must pass over.
Yes.
We have laid everything on the table.
That's right.
We leave the viewer with the choices.
And labor to do
and labor, yeah, okay. but again, do we remember a cynical cartoon by a popular cartoonist? Let me keep his name away.
Okay.
All the panel beaters in this country staged a protest to government house. When they got there, the government rep came out to meet them, and what was the trouble? He said, make them put one of our members, panel beaters, for government. What am I saying? We need something to beat panels and so on.
That's what we are saying. Same thing. I think that it can work. Okay, go ahead.
All right, to our next story. You know, the Department of State Services, or DSS, risks being held in contempt of court over the continued detention of pro-democracy campaigner and publisher of Sahara Reporters, Omoyele Sowore, in a notice of disobedience to order of court issued by the Federal High Court in Abuja. Yesterday, the DSS DG, Yusuf Bichi, has been directed to comply with its order concerning Sowore or risk a time in prison. There's never a good time or bad time for tough decisions. Governance is about taking these decisions, even if they are unpopular. I'm looking at the court now. Let it bark and bite.
Of course.
Are you seeing the picture?
The court can bite.
No, bite by enforcing its order. That's a way of biting.
You need, the court can issue an order. Then you have the police
to enforce it.
So the question is there a robust relationship? Is there an interface strong enough to be able to allow that to happen? The DSS is saying that they did not receive the order. And if they have not received the order, they can't
act on it.
But Falano said that because based on the acknowledgement that they received, that there was a certain Ayuba Adam of the legal services that actually received the letter on the 25th. So what are they saying? So even the court can only deliver judgment, but court does not have that might to also begin to say they want to enforce it. It's now left on the police.
The court can order.
It can order. It's an order. Yeah. But who carries out the order? That's where the problem is.
Yeah, the police, yeah.
It is police will now have to start working on that. There should be an expedited action on any order given by the court, so that it doesn't seem as if, because this is what is happening. You see, the DSS say, oh, they didn't receive it. What they didn't receive, they can't act upon. And which is, of course, they're now flattening the order by the court. So the court has done is, it's now left for police to now go over to say, okay, this order was received, like the letter that Falano traced to DSS, that it was received on the 25th, even quoted the time about 10:08. Signed for. That having been received. So if it had been received by DSS, it means that they are already aware of that order, and then they need to carry it out expeditiously.
Ayuba a bona fide member of
DSS? Of DSS, yes. We work with the legal services department.
Still, sometimes it appears the English coming from the other end is not clear to us.
Well, what we even had was that Mr. Falano waited for about 10 hours, for the DSS to do the needful, but they didn't release his client to him. And what the DSS came out to say was that they didn't receive the order. And then they cast very serious aspersions on Mr. Falano as attempting to create controversy where there was none. They claimed that as a senior lawyer, he should have known better than to raise hell over the issue. But the reality, as I see it, is the fact that I'm not a lawyer, but if Mr. Fallon had gone to court to enforce, to pray that his client be indeed be released to him and they've not, if the court can serve the DSS by substantial means, they may have to do that. But what I am interested in seeing, what I'm interested in at this point, is that I want a situation where the law organically evolves, where there is no, because this is not the first time we are seeing flouting of court orders. It has become commonplace. It has become a judicial epidemic.
Yes, becoming commonplace.
It has become a judicial epidemic, and so it has to be arrested somewhere. That drift must be arrested somewhere. And so if you tell me that the police does not have the capacity to enforce the order of the court,
no, police has the
that's
capacity,
another problem entirely, Citizen Jones.
That has
no,
not
the police
come in.
has the capacity.
No, that has not come in yet.
But
no, it hasn't.
I'm assuming that as a, that I'm taking the place of a playwright, and I'm just imagining how the plot is going to end. Something, something must give at some point.
Yeah.
Whether it is from the, whether it is the DSS, it is the police, it is the courts. The reality is that Nigeria has a law. If Sowore is being held before the courts because of alleged treason, because of
money laundering and all that.
Money laundering, and because he has insulted Mr. President and so on, as far as he is being arraigned before a judge in the name of some law, that law should be allowed to
run its course.
So one person cannot be the prosecutor and the judge in its own, because you see, the reality is this: judicial activism and judicial restraints are two planks that flow out of the same bench, of the same seat. Today, I am glad that a judge, I mean, in spite of the political, I am glad that, exactly,
that he did what he did.
I am glad that there is a judge who mustered the courage to remind us of the days of Justice Kayode Esho and Chukwudifo Oputa, who will, and even Akinola Aguda, to say, even if the heavens will fall, let justice prevail
and be seen to be done.
The reality is that you cannot run a democracy. You cannot have a republic in which somebody is arrested and from that day he is not even on trial anymore.
In the name of national interest.
Name of national interest and all that.
And then, so even when the person is taken to court, he has been ab initio. That man has already been sentenced. As far as I want to see play out.
Siri, it's all right, it's all right. Bola, I find somewhere in the mix to Robin Agbajalingo going through the same process. Now, in his case, the jurisdiction, the judge is going to determine if the bail in his case can be determined. He's trying to determine that rather. So come back to Sowore. Are you seeing fireworks? This back and forth?
Yeah. I can see that from what is obtainable now. And we know the person that is handling the case. Falana will always make use, of the courts. He will also make use of the court of public opinion.
Yes.
To galvanize and to express, the position of his clients. And we are seeing that being obtainable now. But in as much as that, the situation now shows that there is a calamity before us, to use that word. That look, the agencies of government will always not obey the courts. But now, we are seeing another situation.
These courts are parts and parcel of government.
But now, we are seeing some people looking outside the box, like the case of Justice Taiwo, who said this will not be looked into positively by the court. Because, you see, I've seen a situation whereby some other judge will say, well, I've given the order.
Whatever happens
is left for the DSS. We saw that in the case of the former NSA. We saw that. You understand me? But now, we don't want to see Sowore. It's not because he's a journalist.
But look at the footage.
Yes.
The footage on the screen. It shows members of the court of public opinion.
That's right.
Pandering is not the name of the game now.
Yes.
It is the law versus an accused. The law, the bench has made a pronouncement. Let's act the pronouncement out.
Yes. See.
So, a lot less on the court of public. See what we are talking about.
Yes.
This will not get Sowore out. I hope you know.
No, it won't. It won't.
Citizen Jones, you see?
What does that say? In the U.S., what makes the U.S. jurisprudence very thick and deep is the obedience to court orders. You don't flout court orders in the U.S. and you go to sleep because the bailiff is coming after you.
Why do you always like citing?
Because the democracy we are using
today. Why not
today,
cite a country in Africa?
Oh, okay. Where did we borrow our democracy from? We didn't borrow from Africa. Okay. So there's no way I can cite any African country. Because the democracy we are practicing today, we imported it from the U.S. I mean,
but are you? Can you?
So if we must,
can you, in all honesty,
yes,
believe that you act the way the Americans?
We don't. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying, if we borrow,
so why go back there?
I will, because if we borrow this democracy from them, then it behoves us to run it, to allow it to run its course. How can we begin to choose an aspect of democracy and then we say, okay, this one we want to domesticate it? It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't.
You see, Citizen Jones, let's not separate two things. Whether I have sympathy for the revolutionary movement or not is even an immaterial issue. It's a personal opinion that I hold.
Oh, yeah.
But a man is before the court. Let him have his day. You know, the lawyers will tell you this and for free, that very soon, if the state continues this way, you know what it will become? It will graduate from prosecution to persecution, and every court you go to strike the case out. This is my own concern. In the past 4 years, or 5 or so, okay, let me even say, in our recent history, we have had too much of judicial shenanigans that cannot be taught in schools.
All right. Let's go.
So we must clean the giant tables once again.
Let's take a breather. Gentlemen, you know, when they watch Masquerade, then they move from place to place. Let's take this break and come back.
Masquerade.
Okay, no longer news. The DSS risks being held in contempt of court. The court had given orders that pro-democracy activist and publisher of Sahara Reporters, Omoyele Sowore, be released to his attorney. So let's take this home. Bola, how do we take us home? Take us home on this.
Okay, fine. You see, let me just quote Thomas Jefferson. He said one thing. He said, the true enemy of the peoples is one, the criminal and the government. He now said one thing. Let's use the constitution to tie the other one down so that that one will not be more than enemy of the people.
Which one are they tying down?
They must tie the government down. That's what is. Let me quote him here. The two enemies of the people are criminals and governments. So let us use the second down. Let's tie the second down with the chain of constitution. So the second will not become the legalized version of the first.
And who constitutes the who prepares the constitution?
For the tying down of the other one.
People.
The people.
Citizen Jones. That is
the people.
No. The people.
The representatives of the people.
Yeah, the representative of the people.
Take it home.
Take
it back home. Take it back home.
Let me now take it back home.
At your ninth assembly, forget about 1 to 8. Your ninth assembly is in the throes of making history.
Yes.
Can it right the wrongs and so on?
Yes, they can do it if they want to do it. Do they have the liver to do it? That is the question. Because the people elect them, they must serve the people, they must also serve the people in government. Look, we've not been having so much activism, and we are not saying that the two arms of government should continue to fight. That's not. But the lawmakers that we elected should be able to serve the people the way the people want. They should come up with law, and they should speak out.
Yeah.
They can speak out through motions.
Now I see, Bola, now I see where you're coming from.
Yes.
The law must tie
the criminal.
And please.
But
Again, ours is to mold opinion.
Yes.
We are helping to mold opinion.
Yes.
Let's move on. You know, these are crazy times indeed, I must tell you.
Yes.
The police in Kaduna made a jaw-dropping expose in a home in Rigasa town, somewhere in Igabi local government area of the state. About 300 people, gentlemen, in chains, including children, were discovered in the hell home. You know, some of the listless inmates are said to be citizens of Mali and Burkina Faso. You know, and the children amongst them confess to being variously abused homosexually. I'm wondering about Murphy's Law, which states if anything can go wrong, it will.
It will go wrong, indeed.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, I will pass this one to...
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Passing by, yeah.
Okay.
If anything can go wrong, it will.
This has gone wrong.
Oh, really?
Yes, this has gone wrong. But I think we need to look at what were those things that were banded before us that actually created that center in the first place. A religion. Okay? So at the heart of it is religion. We're told that that place was open specifically for teaching of Quran, which is not bad at all. Because if you say, okay, let's teach a group of people Quran and how to behave before God, there's nothing wrong with that. But the question is, if you say you are teaching Quran, how come people, you now have marks on their backs? Do you beat people in order for them to learn the Quran?
And they also have chains.
They also have, look, most of them were menacled. Now, there was even a young man who was, they say, about 42 years old man.
Look at what we're saying.
There was this 42-year-old man who said that he was billed to study for his master's in South Africa.
Yeah.
But he was, because there's an inheritance waiting for him back home, he was tricked out of home and put there for him as a stopgap measure for him to learn the Quran.
Can you rationalize that?
So, how can?
No, can you? The man has a... Bola, help us out here.
No, let me finish this.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that I think parents should be more circumspect. When they say there's a particular place you're taking your children to, I say you need to also find out what actually takes place
Charles,
there.
what is bothering me here? I can understand the quagmire of my friend, Cyril. What's bothering me here is why Burkina Faso and Mali in Nigeria?
Islam has no boundary. Okay?
Sir.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Hold on. You mean there's no Nigerian there?
No, what I'm saying first, that because where they are linking this thing to is Islam, I just want to counter what they're saying, that they could bring somebody from Morocco to study, to be in an Islamic center. That's what I'm saying.
And none for Nigeria.
No, it may not be. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
See, okay.
Well, you are not persuaded, or
see,
are you?
I'm a Muslim.
Thank you.
Let's be realistic about this thing. Fine. Okay, Prophet Muhammad says we should look for knowledge, even to go to China. You understand me? There's no problem.
I'm saying there's no problem with that.
In looking for knowledge, searching for knowledge. But the issue of alimanjiri that we have in our hands now, see, please, is evil.
Is that the name?
Yes, alimanjiri.
No. Is that the name? The Kaduna thing?
No. Alimanjiri is a general phenomenon in the north.
Including
this one. No, okay. Look, let me just, it's not this criminal one. Let's separate the real alimanjiri from the other one. It's just like, alimanjiri is just like giving your child to a scholar, Islamic scholar.
To understudy
the Islamic scholar, to know how to read, to write, and also have some Arabic knowledge surrounding Islam.
Exactly.
That is the real one. But now, the kind of alimanjiri that we have in the north now, the one we are seeing now, is a graduated form of evil. Because the first alimanjiri, Saudana, the Sultan of Sokoto, came out to speak against it. Katsina, Emir of Katsina, also spoke against it recently.
Well, even as he did, even as he spoke, this hell house still operated in Kaduna.
No. He's not the one they are even talking about. They are talking about
gathering children together.
Let me talk.
I want you to characterize this current one.
That's what I'm saying. Even the alimanjiri, the normal one of going to give your children to a scholar, they said it's even evil the way they are planning it. That is why they set up a national committee before under Jonathan, and they were building schools. That was there. Then now, if you look at it, the one, even the alimanjiri that we are talking about, Sultan of Sokoto is speaking against it. The Emir of Kaduna even spoke against it. I read it in one of the papers last week. Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. This one that we are now seeing is not even the elementary. This one is evil.
This is slavery. It's slavery.
This is evil. This is evil.
Down.
Okay. Cyril has recovered. Cyril, let's go.
You know, citizen, first of all, my sympathy knows no bounds. I am shell-shocked. When the news broke yesterday, I didn't know what to say. But you see, what bothers me, first of all, again, thank God that the intelligence services were able to identify such a minefield of evil, of inhumanity. But I fear, citizens, I fear very seriously whether we have the capacity to deal with this kind of thing. And that is why I start to say, these two may just pass. After a few weeks in the media, it may just pass. 300.
There are also other ones like that.
We just hold on. 300.
That's
a number. If these people had unleashed these 300 on us,
I mean, you imagine what is going to happen.
You can. That is an atomic bomb of social dishevel.
Now, Cyril and gentlemen, to imagine that we are now saying these 300 are mainly Malians and Burkinabés.
Yeah, exactly. Which also
beats my imagination.
Which also lends credence to the fact that even
how come they were undercover until
it was busted? Which also lends credence to this what people have been banding, that these herdsmen, the wicked ones among them, the evil-minded ones among them, and also Nigerians. I mean, if you, as you said, going back to what you said, how did they even find their way into that place in the first place? And then how come they existed?
Ask Bola,
yes.
who is
so
the only,
is
the only devout Muslim here. How that 45-year-old...
42, yes.
Okay,
42,
40 plus,
whatever,
if you like.
Yes.
Did he go to study under an Almajiri?
See, let me tell you.
Let's free Cyril.
I want to draw a distinction.
Please go on.
Between the Almajiri system itself
and what
we are seeing today.
They say yes, let me stand.
That is not exactly. You see, hold on. I think that some persons might have purported to use the name of religion.
Yes, exactly. That's
yes.
Exactly. Yes.
But underneath, what they are doing is far worse.
Religion.
Is far worse. Is far deadlier. What are sodomizing children got to do with whatever it is they want to achieve?
And they even tie them upside down. Head down.
Clearly, what they're trying to do is to dehumanize some people.
And unleash.
Unleash. That is where my own intervention is. Why, when you catch people, when you bring people like that, and the number is so humongous, 300 people like that,
and they're starved,
you take them together, you beat them,
you starve them,
you sodomize them. You know what you're doing? You are taking away their humanity, first of all. You're depriving them of the first right that they should have, their humanity. Then, you unleash them on society. That's a bomb. That's a bomb. And so you see, sir, there is a humanitarian side to this thing. But then, we must make sure that we use this discovery as a launch pad. As I rightly said, my suspicion is very strong. There are many more such centers.
Oh, yeah.
That is arguably why the insecurity issue continue, has just continued.
Bola.
See, what I will say is this. This is un-Islamic. It's not peculiar to Islam.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic with ourselves. Let's make a definition. See, the people doing this, they are perpetrating evil by using religion as disguise. These people are agents of Satan, devil. Let's just take that home.
Okay. By these people, you mean those running the home, the hell house?
Those running this hell house, they are not Muslim, and they are not serving Islam. That is the basic.
Let me quickly say this, that also bothers me. If you did something wrong, you were given two options of punishment. You were either beaten or you are said to be sodomized. And the sodomizing you doesn't bring. So look at how the Jews humanize people exactly.
What is wrong in it?
Charles, don't break more hearts. Okay, we leave it there. Well, the viewer, as I repeat, is to provoke this debate, help to mold opinion for you. Now, let's go to our last story. The federal government has projected to borrow a cumulative sum of 1.7 trillion naira to finance the 2020 budget. Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed made the disclosure on Tuesday at the presentation of the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper. The funds, according to the minister, will be sourced 50% externally and the other 50% internally. I hear when you borrow on your character, that character of yours is at stake.
That's right.
You're staking that character.
The minister rightly also conceded, if you like, the fact that it is going to be tougher next, in this next
2020 and beyond.
Personnel costs and so on. No matter how you want, even if we say we're splitting the debt 50% external, 50% internal, she also rightly pointed out that, look, our debt stock was going to rise. And it doesn't help anybody. Nobody goes to sleep when you're in debt. You are at the mercy of the debtor. And so perhaps this also shows that we have not thought of creative ways of generating revenue.
Internally.
Internally, we have not done that. The rhetoric and the discussion about diversifying the nation's economy has been misplaced. I think it was Professor Dr. Olufason who pointed out in one of his articles and said, the Nigerian economy is already diversified because we are making revenue from telecoms, from Nollywood and so on.
Taxes and all that.
What we have not done is to diversify our exports. That's what we have not done. Because much of what we sell is just oil. And so we should have done more. Because in the past 4 or 5 years or so, what we have done, we have not aggressively, or we have not, whatever it is that we've done has not translated into something tangible and palpable. So it looks as if this picture remains, we may only keep talking. In another 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we'll keep on borrowing. The question is, when we continue to borrow, the debt servicing ratio also increases. And then, like she also pointed out, our capacity to even spend to build is also hampered. So we are just going around the vicious circle.
Hold on, Charles. Bola, mine is not to weigh heavily on the borrowing aspect. I'm saying from state after state, from state to state to state, including yours and mine, we hear underneath the ground is one resource or the other which you could exploit for the benefit of all, which is asking, why can't we go there and remove
that aspect of his constitution?
On the exclusive list. Take out with the
I want to answer your question from 2 perspectives.
Yes.
The first one is this: to generate, to look outside the box. Are we doing that? We have resources there.
Do we realize we are in a box?
We are already in a box, and we have to look outside the box because there are money there, revenue there that we are not even looking after. We are not tapping.
I hear, for instance, Zamfara,
Osun, gold deposits,
and so on,
and even diamond.
That Elisha.
In case we are not about this, sorry, I just have to chip this in.
Yeah. What
we are not tapping formally. There are illegal tappers and miners who are making. When Governor Matawale came in, and I have a lot of respect for that governor, Matawale came on board in Zamfara. What he did was that he succeeded in pushing the legal miners out of that place.
And they went to Osun.
And then the governor of Osun ran to Abuja to meet.
They're going to Osun now. They are going to Osun. He said, please, how did you do it?
So citizen, we need creativity in how. Look at even tourism. Citizen, look, Nigeria already has the blessing of having very good writers, who are acknowledged internationally. Why haven't we engaged them to be doing opinions in
international media and all that?
In international media? There is that the Shane, is it Shane or Shane hanging lake in Oyo State? Yeah. There are only 2 of this type in the world. How much are we planning to make from it annually?
Siri, here is, and this is a backbreaker. In the whole planet, the second largest deposit of bitumen is in Ondo State.
Ondo State
and
in
yet
Nigeria.
we still are importing bitumen.
You know, like we've gone on this discussion over and over again.
But we must not stop asking.
Bayelsa State is more deltaic than Delta and more riverine than rivers. The landscape alone is something that, you know, the entire national delta can commonly feed on in terms of tourism. We're not talking about oil. And yet nobody thinks in this direction.
Cyril,
the National Theatre.
Cyril, Charles, and Bola, let's even talk about oil. The largest deposits of natural gas, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, we are flaring.
Yes.
And wasting.
Till day after tomorrow.
And we've been shifting the goalpost as per, you know, stopping such gas flaring. And we've not achieved it. Let me finish what I was saying initially. Okay, we are not looking outside the box. Now we are borrowing. For every money we borrow, for every kobo we borrow, about 2 kobo. Yeah? 2 kobos are going out. You see, according to, you know, a panel that I work with, the Becky panel on the illicit financial flow, we have the largest outflow in Africa. Even from the little we make, this money filter out through many ways.
Capital flight and all that.
It's not capital. This is even not capital flight. Capital flight is legal investment that is going out as a result of, you know,
this is different.
Atmosphere.
Those where they thief our money.
Yes, who thief our money, who steal our money.
Talk 'em.
Not stealing our money, they continue to steal. It's not even politicians that are stealing our money. Multinationals are stealing our money.
My trouble, they are stealing, and we know that.
We know.
But my trouble is, if we nail one, you hear stupid things like, now lay him.
Yes.
But even if you nail, the nailing aspect of it is that those who will do the nailing are also part of those who are being nailed.
Who will nail? Okay, you must not nail anybody.
No, because if Siri and I are involved in criminal activities, you ask me to nail Siri in that same criminal activity. It's not going to be possible. But you see, let me also look at it. No, I'm just saying, for example.
It's a gentleman, please.
You see, the issue of borrowing, you look at it in funding budgets, it's not death sentence. We must establish that. My worry is the reduction of what has been made available for the capital expenditure for this year.
Yes.
There is a considerable reduction. Because if you are borrowing, you must borrow to attack the deficit in infrastructure.
Yes.
It is when you have been able to shore up the level of infrastructure. You're not talking about real growth. But when you now reduce the capital expenditure that's supposed to shore up your level of expenditure, there's a problem there.
And just the other day...
From 3.18 something to 2.85.
When a distinguished senator of this Federal Republic quarreled with the fact that Nigerians were becoming a little ill at ease with what they are using to buy vehicles, I shudder to think if these people are Nigerians.
Well, Nigeria, but see, one thing about it is that once you cross over, you cross over to the other side. I call it the other side.
All right, send me there.
Then it becomes something else.
Okay, we must, we must begin to go home. Bola, I want to thank you for coming. From the top, that's beginning from the first story to the last. You see light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, I see. If we want to play the game as it ought to be, we can do it. I know very well we can do it.
Cyril, we can? There's light at the end of the tunnel?
Patriotism, will force me to say yes. I will end it there.
Okay. You see light at the end of the tunnel. Because I hear a patriot has this trouble at times like this. The patriot is wondering who to support, the government or the country.
Siri.
Nigeria will always have my support.
Okay. All right.
And the government is part of Nigeria.
We must go. Bola, now you know why Cyril speaks a lot of grammar.
Yes,
so you won't go to court again.
Yes.
Cyril Abaku, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Charles Ibeho, and of course, Bola Olajuwon.
Thank you very much.
So that will just about do it for the program today. You may also watch the program on other platforms. We'll show on the screen at the moment. And of course, on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. The feedback channel remains the same. And so on behalf of the Backroom Boys, I am Citizen Jones Hussein. Bye-bye now.